As an FBI official said that the agency created a national tip line to report the drones. But they are saying of the 5,000 tips they've received, less than 100 leads have been generated and deemed worthy of further investigative activity. This is again, the officials reiterated that they have found no indication of criminal activity, foreign interference, malicious intent, or a threat to safety and national security. Though, that said, you did have some New Jersey lawmakers pushing back against the claim by federal officials that most of the drones are actually manned aircraft, arguing instead that's not what they were told in briefings, or just saying that they don't believe those statements based on what they've personally witnessed or heard about in their state. But then also at the same time, we saw Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey actually walking back a video that he shared on X showing what appeared to be a cluster of drones flying near a reservoir in the state, with him there openly acknowledging that after further analysis, he determined that the crafts were almost certainly planes. And then also touching on this, you had Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas going on ABC News yesterday to say,
there's no question that people are seeing drones. Some of those drone sightings are in fact drones. Some are manned aircraft that are commonly mistaken for drones. And we do see duplicative reporting. But there's no question that drones are being sighted. Let me set the record straight here, George. There are thousands of drones flown every day in the United States. Recreational drones, commercial drones. That is the reality. And in September of 2023, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, changed the rules so that drones could fly at night. And that may be one of the reasons why now people are seeing more drones than they did before, especially from dawn to dusk.
With Mayorkas then going on to say that Congress needs to expand the ability of federal, state, and local authorities to crack down on drones. Though on that note, we have seen some significant efforts here. Right, Mayorkas and other federal officials have consistently said they're channeling considerable resources, personnel, and technology to address the situation. And just yesterday, New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced that federal officials are sending a drone detection system to her state, though she also echoed Mayorkas' call for Congress to give state governments more power to deal directly with drones, an idea that's been backed by other lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, with some, including President-elect Donald Trump, also arguing that relevant authorities should be given the ability to shoot the drones down. So for now, we're gonna have to wait to see if any of that happens, as well as if we ever get any real clarity here. But in the meantime, right, the general air of mystery around DroneGate has just created a lot of space for conspiracy theories to flourish. With this, including one unverified theory that took over the weekend after being amplified by Joe Rogan. And that, in large part, coming from a now viral TikTok posted by a man by the name of John Ferguson, who's the CEO of a remote aircraft system company in Kansas. And in this 9-minute long video, Ferguson said that he believed that the drones are being used to detect a gas leak or radioactive material, with him arguing that they wouldn't be flying so low and at night unless they were trying to smell something. With Ferguson launching into what's been described by some as a rambling and confusing explanation where he seemed to be heavily implying that the drones are being used to track down a nuke that went missing when President Reagan shut down the nuclear program with Russia, and claiming that an unnamed source told him that he had alerted the government about a nuclear warhead from Ukraine that was, quote, heading towards the United States. And then, seemingly implying that he thinks the Biden administration ignored that warning because it wants to go to war with Russia, and adding,
this gentleman that I had spoken with, who was trying to raise the alarm to try to get somebody in the government to say, hey, we need to work together to go try to find this nuclear warhead. None of that ever happened. They knew that warhead was on its way to the United States. That's all that ever came of it. Nothing ever happened. This government did not do anything at all to help this gentleman raise the alarm and raise awareness that there is a very deadly weapon on its way to the United States. It's out there. Nobody knows where it's at now. It left Europe. Now it's gone.
And so then with all that, you had Rogan retweeting that video and writing, this is the first video about these drones that has got me genuinely concerned. But this also, as we've now seen a ton of people pushing back at Ferguson's claims, arguing that they are totally unverified and saying that there is no evidence. This is just pure speculation. But with all this, you had Rogan casting doubt on the claims by top government officials that most of the drones are actually legally operated manned aircraft, with them arguing that those claims are sus, and then adding, I want to believe it's Adderalled up incels holed up in a basement fucking with the man more than I want it to be aliens. But ultimately, this is where we currently are. It's a very frustrating situation of not knowing what the fuck is actually going on. And all this open space of not knowing the mystery and the secrecy, it just opens up the situation for misinformation to flourish. For conspiracies ranging from comical to possible to just blow up. But of course, know that while we wait to get more definitive information, we're gonna keep an eye on this and keep you updated. But then let's talk updates around Luigi Mangione, right? The suspect accused of killing United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Starting with the question of how soon is too soon for a documentary? And well, as it turns turns out, in the least shocking news ever, there's one already reportedly in the works. With this one coming from anonymous content and Jigsaw Productions, and it will follow the shooting as well as the response and general outrage against the healthcare system. And while reports haven't said what the timeline for the production and release would be, we're gonna have to see how this plays out alongside Luigi's case. Which, regarding that case, we got some major updates over the weekend, with among other things, reports saying that Luigi has retained a high-profile attorney to represent him in New York, where he's facing a murder charge, with that lawyer notably being Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who worked as the chief assistant district attorney in Manhattan for 7 years, but now has a private practice. And while as of right now, she hasn't given any statements about the case, you had one source telling CNN that she has, quote, as much experience as any human being, especially in the state court. And this is Thomas Dickey is still representing Luigi in Pennsylvania and has continued to indicate Luigi will not plead guilty to the counts that he's facing there, as well as the murder charge in New York. Of course, things could change, right? He also previously said that Luigi would contest his extradition to New York, but that might be changing. With us now seeing the Manhattan DA saying that he's seen indications that Luigi might waive his right to fight it, but we're not going to know for sure until tomorrow. We've also now gotten some more insight into how Luigi may have been identified, with the FBI now saying that investigators actually received a tip from San Francisco police identifying him as a potential suspect. Also, his family had previously reported Luigi missing in San Francisco, and reports say that after getting this tip, the NYPD reached out to his mother, and she said that the images shared on the potential suspect could be her son. Though currently, we don't know when that tip came in or how crucial it was in his eventual arrest. But all of this is arguably the biggest update related to this story actually has nothing to do with Luigi or his case. Instead, it has to do with a major report about United Healthcare. Right? And that because ProPublica published an investigation alleging that the company is strategically restricting and denying care for kids with autism, with the outlet reporting they obtained the company's playbook on this, which is developed by the subsidiary Optum, which manages mental health benefits at United. With specifically the article saying in internal reports, the company acknowledges that the therapy called applied behavior analysis is the evidence-based gold standard treatment for those with medically necessary needs. But then adding that the company's costs have climbed as the number of children diagnosed with autism has ballooned. And so Optum is pursuing market-specific action plans to limit children's access to the treatment. Within the documents reportedly showing that Optum is aware that there are very long wait lists for this therapy, but they still aim to prevent new providers from joining the network and getting rid of existing ones. Which means that impacted families would have to try to find a new provider, which is incredibly hard, or pay tens of thousands of dollars for this therapy. And according to ProPublica, the company is also questioning the medical necessity of the therapy for some patients, which could lead to coverage denials. And reportedly, these strategies would specifically impact kids covered through state-contracted Medicaid plans, which United runs in about 24 states, impacting 10,000 children with autism spectrum disorder. But then is also seeing ProPublica speaking to a number of people outraged by all this, with some of them even questioning the legality of it, as there are federal laws requiring insurers to provide equal access to mental and physical care. With, for example, the founder of the Autism Legal Resource Center saying, yes, this therapy can be expensive, but solving the problem by denying kids access to medically necessary care is a terrible solution. And this is Karen Fessel, the founder of the Mental Health and Autism Insurance Project, also said that this strategy is unconscionable and immoral, and adding, they're denying access to treatment and shrinking a network at a time when they clearly know that there is an urgent need. We also saw ProPublica speaking to a mother whose son has autism and is impacted by this, with us learning that her son was 3 when he was diagnosed, and prior to that, she wondered if he would ever speak, and she couldn't take him out in public because he would just frequently scream out of frustration. But then saying after 2 years in therapy, he could start saying a few small words, and saying that by the time that he was 7, his tantrums grew less frequent and his mom could take him to the grocery store. But then also saying in periods where he had less hours of therapy, his progress regressed dramatically. And so his therapists have concluded that he needed his time increased to 33 hours a week to progress, but Optum said that it wouldn't cover those full hours, arguing instead her son hadn't shown enough progress after being in therapy for so long. But this then also notably, as experts say, that denying full hours for that reason, it makes no sense. Or with them explaining that it's not like autism is an injury that fully recovers with enough time, and this therapy can be medically necessary for a long time just to maintain skills or prevent regression. Also, with this reporting, I do think that a key thing to mention is that ProPublica reportedly started this investigation well before United Healthcare CEO was shot. This does not seem like an attempt to pile on or incite. Reportedly, they reached out to the company a month ago for the comment, and as of 11 days ago, the company still didn't respond to its questions, with them eventually then citing the killing of Brian Thompson as the reason why. Though obviously, with that, I will say this reporting is coming as people have been calling out issues with the healthcare industry, often with United specifically. And actually, with all that, we saw the CEO of United Health Group, which is the parent company of United Healthcare, trying to address this on Friday by writing an op-ed in the New York Times titled, "The Healthcare System is Flawed, Let's Fix It." That op-ed specifically focusing on Brian Thompson at some point, saying that he was always focused on helping people and fixing the system. Adding there, the ideas he advocated were aimed at making healthcare more affordable, more transparent, more intuitive, more compassionate, and more human. Saying the company is aware that the health system does not work as it should, but is, quote, willing to partner with anyone to find ways to deliver high quality care and lower costs. So I will say that op-ed did not land well, with the Times actually having to turn off comments after people lashed out, or with many just not buying that this company wants to actually help anyone and pointing to their own horror stories. And so just generally speaking, this outrage that we've seen at the industry over the last 2 weeks or so, it doesn't appear to be going anywhere, at least for the time being. And as far as what it will evolve or devolve into, that remains to be seen at this point. Then taking a quick break